So the next thing I want to talk about is the power of our thoughts. We've already kind of experienced that with the lemon exercises. There's a book called Your Body Doesn't Lie by Dr. John Diamond, where they did kinesthetic muscle testing exercises on participants. Has anyone ever heard of a kinesthetic test? Where they test your strength by you hold your arm out and someone pushes down, seeing what can break that. What they did was, using different emotional states, tested the strength of different participants. Indicator muscles would strengthen or weaken in the presence of negative emotional, intellectual, or physical stimuli. I'll talk about the emotional states here in a moment, but the physical stimuli is, an example I give is they had participants test with artificial sweeteners, holding an envelope with them against their chest, and the envelopes were unmarked, so the participants didn't know. Artificial sweeteners versus natural raw sugar. The artificial sweeteners tested weak 1,000 out of 1,000 times. The sugar tested strong. Not that sugar is good for you, but you're looking at the difference between an artificial product and a real product from the earth. Just to give you an example. A smile made subjects test strong. The statement, I hate you, made subjects test weak. So again, be very careful about your body language, about what you're saying to yourself, to others, and what your thoughts are all day. Each person has about 60,000 thoughts a day. But because of not doing affirmations and cleaning out your cup every day, or your mind, you can still have the same negative thoughts over and over again. And they contribute to building up the crud in the glass. But once you have the right affirmations, belief systems, and you're able to visualize changes, you can really clean that. And I recommend, who in here goes to the gym or exercises on a daily basis? We work out our bodies. How often do we work out the mind? This needs to be done on a regular basis too for that mind-body connection to really match up. Now this is another example of the power of thought in regards to an emotional state. So this is something by Dr. David Hawkins from a book called Healing and Recovery that talks about the map of consciousness. So I want to show you, these are calibrated kinesthetic tests on different levels based on emotional states. So the lowest we have here is going to be, no surprise, guilt, shame, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride. These are all on the lower level of the weaker level of the human emotional states. So does anybody know why courage is here in the middle? Why this might be a turning point? Well, once you reach the state of courage or empowerment, it counteracts all the negative. These can still exist, but as long as you have an empowered state, you're able to counteract them. You may still have feelings of guilt, anger, pride, but those will go away with time. And if you're in the state of courage, if you're doing affirmations, if you're feeling empowered, they'll no longer control your behavior. And the goal, of course, is to move up the scale to acceptance, reason, love, peace, joy, and enlightenment. But this is just a great example of when that turning point occurs. And he talks about it in the book on how essential it is to stay at a state of empowerment, and how the weight loss programs today don't even talk about the mental states. They just try to sell you stuff. And by counting things all day and focusing on not feeling hungry and forcing yourself to work out, you're staying, and then when you do go off your diet, how do you feel? You feel guilty. Or if your meals aren't planned and you're just eating rando and you're eating, donuts whenever they come in, you're going to feel guilty if it's not I always say planning meals is a very good way to get rid of some of these emotions, because you allow yourself to have, even if you want to have unhealthy food, if you're planning it out, you're not going to feel guilty when you have it or feel shame. And these are emotions that we have to get off of our level of consciousness. We've got to get up to a state of courage if we really want to be successful long term. And we've got to find a way to maintain that. And that's why every single person is very individual in how they achieve their weight loss goals. That's why someone else's program probably won't work for you. Someone else's meal plan, that's not going to work for you. What they're finding now, has anyone here heard of the weight set point? How you gravitate towards back a weight that you think your body just kind of wants to be at? It's a phenomenon in the fitness world. But what they're saying about the weight set point is it actually registers in the brain's reward center. So by how much you can deprive yourself long term is where your weight's going to be. And that's not a very good healthy way to look at it. So what I'm saying is that there's a whole way out of that room, and that's to find courage, empowerment through affirmations and building yourself up. Questions about the map of consciousness? Okay. Very good book, by the way. Power versus Force in Healing and Recovery by Dr. David Hawkins. They're remarkable. They'll change the way you look at everything. So the state of empowerment or courage, like I said, at all levels below empowerment, you have a negative energy field stemming from the same thought, that happiness comes from outside of yourself. That's another thing too. When you're using all these weight loss programs, taking diet pills or following someone else's meal plan or thinking that it's going to be a certain point system or calorie content that's going to help you. What we don't realize is that it comes from here, that the change to really maintain all of this is coming from inside ourselves, from an empowered state. And that's what the map of consciousness is all about. When we start to feel empowered, like I said, you can still have negative feelings, but now you have the power to handle those feelings. The book by Hawkins is called Power versus Force for a reason. Empowerment is what works. Force is not. What happens when we have a force? Law of physics. Counterforce. Exactly. You force something, counterforce. You ever got in an argument with someone, like at a grocery store, like a cashier or something? I've noticed that if you are snooty to them, they're going to be snooty right back to you. If you're nice to them, like if you're returning something, oh, I'm sorry, we can't return that. Oh, well, is there anything else you can do? Here's the form of payment, here's the receipt. You might be able to work something out with the manager. If you start cussing at them and screaming at them and telling them, oh, well, I demand my money back, you're going to get a counterforce. It's that simple. That's what the book talks about, is how human behavior responds differently than people would really imagine. Moving into a positive energy field to the level of empowerment, it also is important to look at truth versus falsehood. The level of truth, this is interesting. When the truth, even if the truth was negative, the person would test strong. They say the truth will set you free. Truth empowers us. That's another thing to remember. I always say that lying seems like second nature to human beings. So by living more in the truth, we empower ourselves physically and mentally, moving into a state of integrity instead of a temporary gain. Human beings often are faced with something called the certainty versus uncertainty principle. This means that we gravitate toward what we know versus what we don't know for sure. The example that I use is, imagine someone came in with a box of donuts and you're having a really bad day. At a rushed morning, you woke up late, you stubbed your toe, you got stuck in traffic. So you come into the office and there's donuts sitting in the cube next to you. And you know that sugar high is going to make you feel better. You know for sure, because you've had a donut before, that sugar high is going to help with your morning. But what you don't know for sure is what's really going to make you feel better is losing weight, keeping it off, feeling fit, and feeling healthy. So we've got to go against that. But that is the truth. So by facing the real truth, even though sometimes it's a little uncomfortable, we empower ourselves and live in a state of integrity. So instead of going into the fleeting mode where you have the donut, which works for maybe an hour, and then you feel horrible. But that is what I'm talking about when I say to be empowered. This temporary gain won't even be as appealing as it once was. People often talk to me about willpower and cravings. Those will change. When you start to see things differently, when you change the way you look at things, when instead of seeing the donut with the glaze and the sprinkles, you see that's actually going to set me back. When that princess becomes an old lady, you're going to be able to walk away without affecting you. Your willpower won't be what's utilized. Your willpower is in your conscious mind. Your subconscious mind is going to take over. The crewmen aren't going to push you in that direction anymore. It's quite wonderful. But this is what I mean by reaching a state of empowerment or courage. So, in conclusion, to sustain long-term behavior change, the subconscious mind must be engaged through methods such as self-talk, affirmations, visualization, altering your perception and changing your perception, and acknowledgement of your own inherent ability. One of my favorite quotes by Carl Jung is, "Who looks outside dreams and who looks inside awakens." By looking inside ourselves, we can reach a state of empowerment, and any goal we set out to achieve becomes possible. So that's the presentation today. Do we have any questions about the material? Now, I am continuing to do research on this topic of the mind-body connection. If you're interested in following some of those, please like my Facebook page. This is a public page with health information. I can't see anyone's information that likes the page, but definitely feel free to check it out. Feel free to connect with me as well on LinkedIn. I do post updates of seminars and conferences I go to based on this type of research. So thank you so much for attending today, and if you have any questions, you can stay after the session.